May 1st to 7th is Navy Week, and the Royal Canadian Naval Association Niagara Region has some events that will bookend that week. Mike Britton and Bob Cole join us. Mike, raising of the White Ensign on Monday at regional headquarters.
Yes, so that kicks off our Navy Week commemorations. Navy Week is really leading up to our big commemoration ceremony on the battle, which is the Battle of the Atlantic commemoration ceremony on May 7th, Sunday. And that's where we'll really begin to commemorate one of the longest, or the longest continuous battle of World War II.
And Bob, that's the Battle of the Atlantic.
The Battle of the Atlantic, it started in, I believe, May of 1939 and ran till the last day of the war in 1945. It was the longest continuous battle, as Mike says, and probably one of the worst. And you see some of those ships, and you'll be getting some pictures for that, where they ran up north when they had like 2 and 3 feet of ice on a ship, which if the wind blew the right way, they'd just capsize and they'd be gone. And sub-zero up to Russia.
Mike, this is an important, a significant event, not just for the Royal Canadian Navy, but also for St. Catharines, for Niagara. We had a lot of Niagara naval officers, merchant marines in this battle.
A lot of people don't realize that the Canadian Navy started off with just a few ships at the start of World War II. And at the end of it, we were the 3rd largest Allied Navy in the world. And so this, we were really important in supporting Britain during the war and making sure that they were able to continue the war effort. Without those merchant marines, without the Canadian Navy, Britain wouldn't have been able to last without us. So it was a very significant battle, and that's why we commemorate it.
Now, Mike, I know you're emceeing. Bob, what exactly is happening on Sunday, May 7th at Navy Hall? And I'm not going to say 1 o'clock, it's at 1300 hours.
You're right. Yeah, there's a little bit of a parade, and there'll be the Legion and the cadets and us. We'll bring them up onto the parade square and the normal remembrance type day ceremonies. That starts, as you say, at 1 o'clock. We invite the public, and we particularly invite to bring their children. The more kids know about this, the better. And all the local legions and various cadet corps will be involved. And this year, hopefully, last year the weather wasn't too good. This year I think we're going to be okay. We'll be outside. Coast Guard will be there, Canadian Coast Guard with the ship. And we have the 2nd Lincoln Militia Artillery. I get that, it's a long name. And they'll be bringing their new cannon down, and they'll be firing this black powder cannon. So it's a good day, and then afterwards we have a little bit of reception inside Navy Hall. And if you haven't seen Navy Hall, this is the opportunity to see it. It's not open to the public.
And Mike, you know, I was there last year. I spoke to you at the event. It was a very poignant event, the ringing of the bell in remembrance of those ships that went down and the soldiers, or I should say the naval officers and the merchant marines who were lost.
Yeah, so the ceremony itself will have a lot of familiar elements that you'd see at a Remembrance Day ceremony, like the act of remembrance, but there'll also be Navy-specific parts to it, which is like the carnation ceremony, as it's called, which for every ship that was sunk, the name of the ship and the amount of lives lost are read out, and a bell is tolled at the same time, and a carnation is thrown into the Niagara River to signify that remembrance. So yeah, there'll be some familiar elements if you've been to a Remembrance Day ceremony, but there'll also be some interesting Navy additions, including the the T-28 Squadron flyover. We'll be doing a flyover of the event, which is new this year. So
well, I highly recommend that people attend it. It was a very, very interesting and meaningful ceremony. Bob, Mike, thank you very much for joining us again, May 7th.
May 7th?
At Navy Hall.
1300.